Well, one of the things that I found going to the Hill and talking to the legislators or their staff is they're interested, they're interested in learning about, well, what is the ask? We'll tell them we want the funding to continue at 80 million. We want the CDC funding to go back into the budget. But what's more impactful for them is to hear, why are we here? Mm-hmm. And so we tell that same story about, as a daughter, seeing your father, the person you looked up to and who's taken care of you for most of your life, who comes down with something like cancer. I think when people hear the word cancer, they automatically think death. Mm-hmm. And so when you come here and you learn from a higher level perspective about the clinical trials, and you understand why the funding is important. And I think that's what moves them. So when you tell them, had it not been for my father going with my uncle to a hospital that had this special clinical trial and this program, he may not be here, because I have people whose fathers aren't here. Mm-hmm. And it's because they didn't have that same access to that resource. And so them hearing that, then it moves them, and they start thinking about it. And then I've even found too, when you're talking to the staffers, they'll say, you know what, I had an uncle. And so then they start thinking about the same thing. And then when it becomes personal, when you're connected to something more personally, you're more apt to go out and fight for it. And so I think the stories is what really moves them to go back and talk to their bosses and say, this is why this is important.
Well, in the past few years, I've had the opportunity to meet with the congressmen and the senators, and like they're males, mine were all males, and they were like, they talk about their uncles and their grandfathers or themselves or someone. And you just find, I look for the golden thread, that will help. I call it like a quilt or something, and you find the thread that's going to patch the pieces together, and by telling our personal stories. But then I encourage them, ask them first of all. That's how I find out about them. And I make it a human. I want them, when they're up there getting ready to vote on the bill, I want them to see my face. I want them to think about my family and think about how one of their constituents, have this concern. And I told them, I said, I'm not, it's a bipartisan thing for me with this. I said, I don't want you to vote against it or something because this other person is for. I said, you just think about, we're human beings, and you're there and you're working for the citizens, your constituents. And now we're like, we were regional champions, now we're zero champions. And so we're concerned about people across the nation, and everyone that I talk to, I let them know that I'm meeting with Congressman so-and-so, and when I go there, they know I don't stand alone, because they know I'm a voice in the community, and I want them to hear my voice, and I want them to know that this is for all of us. We're fighting for this for all of us. We're all involved. It's not just a male thing, because if it affects the male, it's going to affect the female. Mm-hmm. And so many guys are so afraid because of what they think it may do to them, and they're without. But if you're without something, then we're without something. It's not just you're in this thing, no man's an island, and it's not your island. It's, it's our thing, so that's what I talk to them. That's how I do it.